have this little trimmed off piece of 1045 high carbon from the Wakizashi Challenge. And I thought, you know, I got enough material here to make a small knife blade. So 1045 is not my favorite steel for knives, although it's a steel you can make a knife out of. But what I really want to know is, can I make a cool knife out of it? And how can I make a cool knife out of this? And my thoughts are, 1, forge it. 2, put a hamon on it. Let's see that temper light. And 3, can we make it pop with some super quench? Guys, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now's the time to do it. Be sure to hit that notification button. Here we go. Alright, just taking the burr off. You can hear my forge is kind of low on gas here. I mean, literally just about out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this into the forge. I basically use the fuel to go ahead and get my temp up. And then I'm going to start forging. Majority of this is going to be hand forged. But I'm kind of curious to see if I can get a knife with a cool little hamon. Now, 2 questions. Hidden tang or scale tang? I'm thinking I'm doing hidden tang with this one. Just because if it does survive doing the super quench, which I'm hoping makes for a more prominent hamon, then I would guess that it's likely, not 100%, but it's likely that it's going to look cool, and I'm going to be able to sell it. So I normally would not do super quench on a high carbon blade. 1045 is on the lower end of hardenability as far as high carbon steels. Here's my axe head right here, probably about a 1055, so it's a little bit higher carbon. But I'm going to see how this works. Once that comes up to temp, I'm going to do 2 things. 1, I'm going to draw a tip out on this. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to draw a tang out. Because even though that's a small piece of steel, that little piece of steel will make a decent sized knife. Adolphe, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. So, majority of this will be hand forged, and I need to move my oil. Yesterday I was quenching blades. I think I did 58 of them in the day, and so now I still have my quench tanks and so forth around. Bright colored dust that's around. The Cheyenne has been working on some of her handle material, and guys, it's turning out real cool. Once more, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now's a great time. Let's get to doing some forging. Here we go. Starting to draw that down. If I'd have had it a little hotter, and honestly, if I'd have had a different set of tones, that probably would have went a little better. So I've got my steel coming up to temp again. Rotate over so you can see the forge. There we go. Got that drawn down to a pretty good tip, and start drawing out that tank. Now, as you can hear, the tank is just about out here. I'm trying to use up what fuel I have in it, and then I'm going to switch over to a full propane tank, which is not going to take very long. My question is, do I continue to let this go like this, or do I go to a full tank? Because I've got maybe a couple minutes left on this. We're going to a full tank, guys. Sounds better already. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and move the camera, because by the time we get up to temperature, it's going to be time to work on the power hammer. So here we go. Some people ask to me, like, why would you make a blade out of 1045 that you would normally want to have much better edge retention, better performance, and so forth? And what I'm going to go with as far as that answer is quite simple, because it's something I normally wouldn't do, and I want to see what would happen. Now, am I expecting this to be the greatest, the most awesome? I'm not. But the other day, I did make a bunch of 1045 lug bolt knives, mini spike knives essentially. And these aren't bad little blades. So I was like, I've got a scrap, let's try it. Let's take virgin stock, new stock from the mill. It is a cutoff from a forge piece. And let's see what I can do with this. So guys, here we go. We're going to do this again. Now, one thing I'm going to say about this piece for certain is that it will make a knife. How good of a knife, I don't know, but it will form a knife. Okay. Put up some of my extra tongs while I'm waiting. 1/4 inch thick at this point. And for a blade that small, it's way too heavy. Keeping in mind that the super quench is going to be quite violent. So that means that it could be quite terrible. We'll find out shortly. Now, why am I doing 1095 or the 1095? Now you're doing 1095 with super quench. Tried that and it cracked out quite well. Go back and check that in some of the previous videos. But let's see. Let's grab another pair of tongs. Ooh, look, another pair of tongs. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of hand forging first, just so I don't over forge it with the power hammer. Started to rise up there. I'm going to heat it up again. Now, I want to widen that blade out so that I can get a hamon, but I don't know how the steel is going to react to this super quench. It could fracture out. It definitely could fracture out along those grain boundaries, since we're going to be creating a blade under stress, having a hardened zone and then a soft area. I'm not going to have to do a whole lot to this because I probably don't need to normalize it very much. And I am going to do some grain refinement on it though. You can see the back is quite thick and that edge is very thin. And as a result, that spine has raised as well. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to flatten everything out. Smack my finger on the anvil. I'm going to flatten everything out. And once I say that's good enough, I'm going to run a couple cycles for stress relief. I'm going to let it cool. I'm going to grind it, I'm going to refractory back it, I'm going to heat it, and then I'm going to quench it. So as far as how long does it take to forge a blade, it depends on your steel, the steel requirements, and what you really want out of it. Now, after this, I will put it in for temper. Now, my question is, got to check Facebook real quick. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check the Googles. I'm going to Google, because Google knows it all, right? What is the Rockwell hardness of 1045 steel when super quenched? Tin45 can achieve a maximum surface hardness in the range of 54 to 60. This does not mean it will be hardened. Primarily affects the surface, yeah, clearly. So I'm actually going to probably run this a little softer than what I would my blades generally. All right, here we go. curve to it almost. It's kind of dropping down. I want to do another heat and I want to run it down the middle. So I'm going to try to get rid of that medial ridge, something I would normally like to have on some of my blades, but not in this case. I want to keep that pretty even. Bruno, 4536, how are you doing? Okay. I'm going to bring it out again, run down the middle and widen that blade out some. Looks a lot different than it did just a bit ago. Now that I've got that blade forged out for the most part, I want to go to my Trent tie hammer right here, and I'm going to start reprofiling that because my profile is not what I want it to be anymore. I think that's going to make a nice, it's going to make a decent knife blade right there. I'm going to throw it on the floor to test its durability. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to draw that tang out just a little bit more. Okay. So after I draw the tang out, I'm going to check for straightness. And like I said, I'm going to do some, essentially normalize it, try to do stress relief, and see what kind of results I get, guys. If you haven't liked and subscribed, be sure to do that and hit that notification button. Okay. That's not too bad. And it's 1045. It's not like it's going to be an overly high-performing durable steel. Alright guys, hope everybody's having a good time. The goal today, I forged a small blade out of 1045 high carbon steel. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to try to produce a hamon. I know I can produce a hamon this way. I'm going to use super quench to see if I get a really awesome hamon. I've seen some very dramatic hamons with water quench steels like 1095. I generally don't water quench my 1095. I'll let you know that. There's my blade. It looks a lot hotter on camera than what it is in the shop here. I'm going to let that cool. It's over here to the side in the vise. I'm going to run just a couple cycles. And then it's going to be onto the grinder once it's cool. So it'll take just a couple minutes for it to cool down, but I've got a way to do that without shocking the steel. And this is a very technical process that I'm going to use, and you guys may use it later in your shop or in your own personal life, perhaps at work. Who knows? Let's find out. And you'd like to see me do other kinds of weird things, be sure to check out some of the videos. Now the oxide that's formed on there is kind of red, so I've got to make sure that my blade right here isn't red anymore. It is a dull red. I'm going to put it in the anvil right there. Try to cool it off. All right. I'm at a pretty even red right there. Tip's a little warmer, but not by much. And I'm just letting it cool here in still air. Things you do while you're waiting for your blade to cool, right? Sure to brush out your beard and redistribute your beard oil. It helps for beardiness stuff. All right. Okay, that looks relatively not glowing to me. I'm passing this in and out of the forge to just slowly allow that heat to come up. I don't want to overheat it. And I'm at a low red now. We'll turn my forge off. So once I lose all color in my blade, I'm going to cool it off. And I got a couple different ways that I can do that. And one of the ways I want to do that is using forced air. Now, if you have an air compressor in your shop, which I have one in the back, but I don't want to have one out here, using an air chuck works quite well for that. And it's a great way to remove heat from your steel fairly quickly without shocking it. So I'm going to use a leaf blower. Because everybody keeps a leaf blower behind their counter in their shop. Why? Because that's where I had it. And I'm 25 minutes in, and here's my blade. Now the question is, how hot is that now? I wouldn't want to leave my hand on it too long, so I'm going to call that cool enough to work. All right, there we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clean this down, clean my profile, and grind some bevels on this. Let's see. I guess I will start with the 36 grit zirconium, which I've got some. I think I've got some brand new ones over there from Sean Ryan at Phoenix Abrasives, but I'm going to use more ones. Once more, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, Get on it, guys. Here we go. Magic time. I'm using this worn belt for a simple purpose, and that is for the profiling. I'm going to get, let's see if do I have a fresh 80 over here? Here's a fresh 80. 80 grit's going to do fine for what I'm doing because, one, I need something that is realistically rough enough for the refractory to adhere to prior to doing that quench. Now, 1045, I'm not going to have to soak very long at all. When I do that quench, in fact, I may not have to soak at all. Doing a relatively flat grind on this, and I'm leaving the edge thick because I'm putting it into a water solution. So here's my blade at 80 grit. And what's the next process? The next process is going to be putting refractory on this. Here we go. Now, why would I put a hamon on a blade like this? This is just because. Although I wish that was a little better steel, because that's not a bad little blade. And it's not the 1045 is a bad steel. It's just, if I compare that to my daily carry, my little honey badger flipper right here, which I need to clean before I fix supper with it. This is 80 CR 13 MOV, so chrome moly and vanadium. And this is just a simple carbon steel. Now, will this work for a blade? It will work for a blade. I can make a blade out of copper. I can make a blade out of stone. I can make a blade out of a lot of different materials. And it's a matter of what is now accepted widespread as what is a good blade material. 1045 is better for things like hammers and axes. And although I do see swords out of 1045, I have not had a lot of good experiences with swords out of 1045 high carbon. I mean, I guess it's a high carbon steel. It's more of a medium carbon, you know. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my bucket O refractory out, and this is the same stuff that I reline my forge with, that Atlas knife and tool forge over there. Here's a horseshoe knife. This is actually one of the experiences we offer here at Forge Memory, is a horseshoe knife. You come in and make your own. And I'm trying to figure out. I should apply this for something other than like my fingers. I'm also going to get a torch here. It's a brazing rod. I need a butter knife. Is really what I need. Let's go get a butter knife. I think a butter knife will work just fine. Now, some of you may ask, well, if you're putting hamon on there, why wouldn't you polish your blade up before doing so you have less work to do later? And the fact is that if I do that, if I do that, then it's not going to adhere to the blade as well as what I need it to. And I don't want my refractory coming off. Now, it's only going in, once that blade is up to temp, I'm quenching it. And then I'll knock the refractory off of it. And the refractory is going to insulate that material. You guys are going to want to see this. All right, so guys, be sure to follow me for more recipes. First thing you do is you get your butter knife and you stir up your refractory to get all the stuff mixed in. I don't know what this kind of oily, goopy stuff. That's all technical terminology, if you're wondering. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to apply this. The idea of the refractory is that it's going to insulate the blade, not only during the quench, but during heating. So the area under the refractory is not going to be, it's not going to cool as fast, it's not going to heat as fast. So hopefully it doesn't show as much of a, hopefully it defines, that would be a better way to put it. Hopefully it defines the boundary in the grain structure better than just trying to edge quench it and then etch it. So essentially what I'm doing is it's going to be a full quench, but the areas exposed are what's going to be affected by the quench more so. And I'm putting a little bit of refractory around here Let's get it onto the tang as well. Because one, I don't want that tang to harden, but I also want to make sure that I've got areas that are going to show more contrast. Once more, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. Now, I'm not going to put refractory on the edge. Some people would put a very thin coating on the edge for doing a water quench, and I want to see what can be produced here. And I'm just doing kind of a stepped pattern here. And what I'm going to do next, after I get this applied, I will come in and heat that with my torch so that everything sticks a little better. And then I may go back in and apply just a bit more refractory. Okay, so there is my refractory coated blade. And here's my propane torch. All right, now I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One, to cure that slightly so it doesn't turn into a complete marshmallow like you'll see it swelling up right now. And two, also so that I can apply just a bit more refractory. Because I don't want the spine exposed. If that happens, then it can start, essentially gaining heat from having the spine exposed. And it is cool enough I can handle it. Like I said, I just need to apply a little bit of heat. And if I see some areas that look a bit thin, then I add a little more refractory. I don't want to be wasteful, but at the same time, I do want to get a good hamon on this, if at all possible. Something that would probably be good for this would be, maybe something along the lines of, like a palette knife, that painters use to mix their paint. Some kind of a little spatula looking thing. All right, there we go. So what I want to do, two things. I'm just going to cure the outside. I expect this to fluff up like a marshmallow real good, but I don't want it coming off that blade yet. Now, once more, I'm going to use super quench. That's a plan. There we have it. So this is moving along. We're at just like have 40 minutes right now. I'm just going to kind of scrape this all down. And throw away my butter knife. Seal up my refractory good because that's a wonderful thing to have around the shop. And I'm going to wait until my forge gets up to temperature. So this will be just a couple minutes. And let's look. There's my super quench. It's looked better. Here's a lead ladle. Let's skim off some of that goo. Now this super quench is made from, I want to say it's about 4.5 gallons of water, 5 pounds of salt, jet dry, and about 8 ounces of jet dry, and 32 or 36 ounces of Dawn dish detergent. Okay. Sinan, how's it going? Pietro, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Guys, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this up to the side so you guys can see the full process. Cranking my forge up, got my tongs ready. This is like Blue's Clues, but an adult version where I lose everything I'm looking for in the shop. All right, wire brush. I'm going to want that. One, I'm going to use this to strike the refractory and break it off, and I'm also going to use this to clean the blade down. I'm going to do super quench and try to get that edge hardened up nice and nice and hardened up. Guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. I'm going to check a couple things right quick here. I said right quick, and it's taking longer, it seems like. Yay, money came through. Got a love PayPal. Check messages just in case. Let's see. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. I've got the super quench, which is pretty well up to temp. I'm going to judge this by eye. Once more, there's a refractory back 1045 blade. And I'm going to bring it up to temp, and then I'm going to quench it and clean it off. Let's get a little bit of an angle over here because I'm going to be kind of working over here a little bit. Okay. I don't have to worry about flames for my oil because I'm using something that is not flammable. At least it temperatures that I can exist in. Now, the refractory being insulative, it does a couple things. One, you got to make sure you get your piece up to temperature. A piece of rebar Lizzie was working on that I'll use as an example. This is quite narrow. It'd be hard to put a hamon on, but not impossible. Being that I have an area that I'm trying to keep from heating. I have an area that I'm trying to prevent from heating or from cooling fast enough to harden efficiently, so that I create visible grain boundaries for an aesthetic reason here. That means that I have less of the blade that's going to retain heat. If this area doesn't heat up, or doesn't heat up to the point of the edge, then it's going to take a little more to get, I guess, up to temperature. And then I also want to make sure that even if this does heat on the interior and that it's being insulated so that it doesn't harden or harden efficiently, I have to be cautious about, one, that portion of the blade completely fracturing out and no longer being part of the blade, or two, I have to worry about if I have too much of that blade covered in only a small area that I'm hardening, that could migrate, the heat could migrate rather, and that I would not get the result that I'm looking for. Thank you, Sinan. I appreciate that. Lyle, how's it going? And thank you. We're about 48 minutes in. We're going to end up with the blade ready to put in for temper. Now, what I've read, they generally recommend tempering 1045 at a higher temperature to avoid brittleness. In this case, I'm wanting a hard edge, which can, in some cases, result in brittleness, having a harder edge. But I'm going to find out. 1045 can be water quenched, it can be brine quenched, it can be oil quenched. I want to find out if it can be super quenched. Something like iron that would normally not harden does harden up more so in a slippery brine or super quenched solution, and I'm using those two interchangeably because there are similarities between the super quenched solution and what's been described as a slippery brine in the older blacksmith books and manuals and so forth. All right, guys, we're just about up to temp. I'm hoping I don't need gloves for this. I'm going to scrub back and forth, and here we go into the super quench. Now I can still see that refractory glowing, which means that it's insulating. I hope I don't get warpage. Here I go. And I'm just going to rinse that off in this bucket. God, wow, I hope that holds. I hope that works. Now, I need to get this into temper before it tears itself apart. That is a real possibility. I don't see any cracks as of yet, but what I do see, some grain boundaries there. Here on this side, it's not as prominent. I'm not sure what. It's probably because I got some decarb on this side, because this was a side facing the flame. I don't know why. I'm going to get this in for temper. I really want to clean that off. I want to clean that off a bit more. I have to be careful because this could be a bit. There we go. It's almost like that's what a wired brush was meant to do. And I'm hoping I get a prominent hamon on both sides. I believe that I should, but there's a possibility that I won't. I'm going to get this in for a relatively short temper cycle. But right there, that looks pretty promising to me. Yes, we do have some hamons going on. This is some forage fishing. You remember the Wakizashi Challenge video? This is a cutoff from the tang. It's 10:45, and I decided to super quench it. And God, that looks prominent. That looks, I'm hoping. Now what I'm going to do, a lot of people are going to have a problem with. So here is my kitchen oven. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to run my oven temp. I'm going to put it about, I'm going to run that temp up a little bit. I'm going to run it about 430 degrees. A lot of people would say, hey, you want a hard blade, 375, 400 max. Anything over 400 is too soft. I don't know, man. My blades outlasted some of theirs. So matter of preference. And I'm using a digitally controlled kitchen oven that is going to be not overly accurate for this particular process because I realized that I didn't have anything preheated to get it in there. And that's what I can do in a short amount of time. Okay, forage and fishing. You are asking what the difference is between super quench and a normal quench. Okay. And I had somebody asking, how do I measure temp? In that case, by eye and just by experience. I've been doing this for around 32 years. So in this case, on that steel, just because it is a simple carbon steel alloy, that's how I'm doing that. So getting back to forage and fishing, difference between super quench and normal quench. So generally, you're going to have three types of quenches with variations in between. One is going to be a water quench. Water quench being with low manganese steels, quite, in most cases, simple alloys. There are some higher, maybe not higher alloys, but some modern alloys that are still a water quench. And then we're looking at oil quenching. Oil quenching is majority of what you're going to experience in the shop. High carbon Damascus steel, 1095, 5160, 52100. A lot of these are your oil quench steels. There are different ways to quench them, and like some of your 10 series, your shallow hardening, even your 1095 can be water quenched, although interrupted water quench might be a better option. And then you have air quench. Now, I realize I've missed brine and super quench. I'm going to get to those in just a moment. With an air quench steel, or air hardening steel rather, would be something like A2 or steels with higher alloying components, such as perhaps like chromium and maybe chromium nickel, things like that, that are going to allow that steel to harden once it's brought up to a sufficient temperature and to cool from there. Now, what I am talking about now, going into brine quenching and super quench, is that brine quench would be, okay, I'll get you in just a moment on that. Good point. And yes, D2 would be an air hardening steel as well, a lot of your higher alloy tool steels. And then you get some that have red hardness from having alloying elements like tungsten. Now, with a brine quench is generally hardens a blade up a little better. Brine quenching is something that was done on like Japanese swords, and also anything else that maybe they were quenching a blade in horse piss. It does work. Yes, forage and fishing, thank you very much. Those are good examples. So with super quench is something that's similar to what's referred to in the older blacksmithing manuals. I got dirt on my face. I have a lot of dirt everywhere. As a slippery brine. And this solution, which I did a video on, if you go back and check it out in several of my previous videos, I actually make super quench, and I use a 5-gallon bucket, so 4.5 gallons of water. It's either 32 or 36 ounces, I think, of Dawn dish detergent, approximately 8 ounces of jet dry, and 5 pounds of salt. So that's what I use there. Yeah, approximately. Yes, that's correct. Um, some people used to measure it. You'd take a hard-boiled egg and put it in a bucket of water and add rock salt until that egg floated. It changed the buoyancy factor, change the density, and then they would say at that point, then it's good to quench. Um, Different people use different techniques. I primarily do oil quenching. I do super quench when I'm doing things like some of our experiences, like railroad spike knives and horseshoe knives. That steel does not harden up. It does in super quench. You don't temper it afterwards. Now in this case, I did the super quench, and now I'm going to temper. Now what's the difference? That the 1045 is a hardenable steel, and that with as much stress as I just put into that blade, even doing stress relief on it, grain refinement, which many people say is not necessary in certain steels, I still did that to try to promote a more prominent hamon. And from what I've seen so far, we should have a pretty decent hamon. Now, there will be a second video where I try to do some finishing on this if it survives. When I'm cleaning it up, if it does not survive the quench, as in that blade cracks, we're going to break that thing, okay? I'm going to break it. You guys are going to be like, oh my God, yeah. Yes, 1045 is a good steel for hammers, hatchets, things like that. 1040 is more closer to like a railroad spike from my understanding. Whereas 1045, I've seen a lot of people water quench that, and it does fine. I generally prefer to oil quench. It's a little safer, and using the quenching oils that we do have, it works quite well. Like I said, I don't do a lot with 1045. The last video I did with 1045, the Wakizashi Challenge, when I refractory backed and quenched that blade, what it did was, just to be quite simplistic about it, and I got to check my time, make sure I'm not running behind on things. When I did that quench, I quenched in canola oil. And I did get a hamon. I didn't finish it out to a real high polish before I did my etching. So I went back and forth. I did produce a hamon. This I'm trying to get to get a rather prominent hamon. And also the reason I left that edge thick was because of the amount of stress that I'm putting that under doing a quench like that, unprotected, and we intend putting that medium carbon, but a high carbon steel into a super quench. So if you go back and watch some of the other videos, guys, if you haven't liked and subscribed, now's a great time to do so. Go back and watch some of the other videos where we try quenching different materials in super quench. Can you super quench copper? You sure can. And you know what it does? The same thing as quenching copper and water, nothing. Actually, I think I tried some Monel alloy, which is a nickel copper alloy, and it does not harden up in super quench. It does not harden up in water. It does not harden up in oil. It does work harden a little bit. We found that out, at least with the samples that we have. I did some tests with mild steel, water, air cool, oil quench, and super quench. Super quench seems to do the best on that. I did take a sample of 1095 or file steel, pretty high carbon steel, and I quenched that in super quench, and watch the videos, guys. Just go back and check that out. It can be fun. I've heard the 1045 quenches better and AAA over Parks 50. I had read a little bit on that as well. I don't know too many bladesmiths that use 1045 for higher performance blades. Is it something I would want my name attached to? In most cases, no. In this case, yes, because it's fun, and I might even end up with a cool little knife out of it. And if so, you can check out some of my Facebook auctions. I've got one coming up Wednesday. If that survives, that blade might even end up on there. I don't know. It might end up on Forge and Fire Knife Makers Marketplace. It could end up on Cowboy Knife Auctions. You just find out. I will be posting some links at some point to check out some of our sponsors like Forge and Memory Family. Once you check out Iron Mountain Metalcraft, and I just got a new phone, which I don't have hooked up I don't have service transferred yet. I'm still using this one, but this one, the mic is going out and my audio dropped out. So I'm like, I can't do videos without audio. Well, technically I can. I just don't get that much of a post reach. So guys, here's what I'm going to do. Was I on Forged in Fire? Yeah, I was on Forged in Fire. I was on Forged in Fire season 4, episode 2. Deerhorn knives. I was back in 2017. Cheyenne, you've seen her on our video. She was on season 9, episode 5. Josh Nicolaitis, who has not been on our videos, that guy right there next to Spicy Mike, he won season 6, episode 3. He was the second one from the shop that went. You see, there's Eustace Conway. We forged down, teach down at the Turtle Island Preserve from Mountain Men on the History Channel. Well, we don't teach on that show, but we do teach at that location. I was also on season 1, episode 1 of Master of Arms on Discovery Channel. We only ran one season of it. There were several of us from Forged in Fire on there, and I made a flintlock axe pistol. Look kind of like that thing right there. Be sure to check that out as well. But yeah, I was on Forged in Fire. Also, I was contributing author on Next Level Knife Making. I believe that book's available on Amazon. Produced DVD, 3 Knives, 3 Ways, which you can check out. I think that may be available at Cult of Athena. Tell them you want that, and maybe they'll order some more of them off of me. We are still in the process of setting up the e-commerce store, and we may actually set up another venue just as a backup or in the meantime, because we are starting to offer wholesale on certain products like spike knives, horseshoe knives, things that you would take to festivals and sell, steak turners, bottle openers, things of such a nature. But yeah, I have been on television. They use me quite a bit for the commercials and some of the YouTube videos and so forth. So let's see. Where do you buy rare metals for alloys? Okay, so the steel that I buy, I get from different sources. Sometimes I get it from Pop's Knife Supply, Admiral Steel. I bought some of my 52-100 from Ray Kirk, another Forged in Fire alumni, good guy as well. ABS Master Smith. I get some of my Damascus that I buy in billet form from Alabama Damascus. The meteorite that I use for my meteorite Damascus, I actually get that from Mike Peterson of Mike's Damascus LLC, Forged in Fire alumni as well. Do I make guns? Professionally, I do not make guns. I did play a gunsmith on TV at one point. I am not a licensed gunsmith. I do maintain my own firearms. I do at times work on my own firearms, and I'm going to word that appropriately for legal purposes. I would like to make guns at some point. In fact, I would really like to get into single shot cartridge rifles, like rolling block and falling block actions. I would also like to get into some break action shotguns and maybe do some double rifles at some point. So that's in the future. That's once I get a few more businesses started. So maybe I can have more staffing so that I can pursue some of that. Forge and fishing, that is a cool comment. I like that. I do not make guns. I do not sell guns, but I do maintain and work on the pieces that I own. So I operate within my legal limits on that. Absolutely stay, legal on that. You don't want the ATF showing up and being the ATF. So there we go. And I live in Illinois, so there's a lot of firearm restrictions, unfortunately. What did I make for Forged in Fire? We had to take golf club heads. I say golf club heads, and I smacked my head because it felt like I had a fly land back there. So I had to take golf club heads and a golf ball sized ball bearing and forge those together. So I did a combat camp knife. And I actually went out at the end of the second round. And then on Master of Arms, we had to do a battle axe and then a flintlock axe pistol from that. And that was a really cool experience. I really enjoyed that. Cheyenne, let's see, Josh he had to make a Bowie knife on his episode, and then he did a Kalashmard sword, which that was actually filmed in my shop at my Chauvenier location. I own multiple properties, and at one point I had several shops, and at this point I'm kind of consolidating everything, and then now I have a surplus of equipment as well. But that's good because I use that stuff. Hell yeah. Um, let's see. I have I had something else I wanted to add to that, but I can't remember now. But the blade is in for temper. I will be doing a reveal in the near future on that once it's finished, and if it turns into a good piece, if it turns into a good, it occurs to me that may not be. Hold on. Cheyenne did a sawback machete that they used W1 to make tent stakes. The Smiths didn't. There were tent stakes made from W1, and she did a canister and did a sawback machete. She's got it tattooed on her arm as well. But if that blade does make it pass the test, so to speak, then I may go ahead and use some of Cheyenne's dyed and stabilized handle material. It just occurred to me I've got a couple packages coming in, and I don't remember how heavy this is. Is this from Phoenix or is it from? Oh, this is from Phoenix. Sean Ryan is always great about getting me my orders on time. I remembered that I have an order from Bell Force Products coming in, and Cheyenne is going to be doing some dyeing and stabilizing of those materials. And I'll tell you what, the only reason I ever really look at this is just to remember what I ordered, because I order so much stuff from them. 36 grit zirconium belts, which I use those for for some of my lighter work. Otherwise, I generally go with my ceramics. And always be careful opening packages with knives so that you don't damage your contents, because if you cut your belts, it ain't good. Sean, I don't know if he has a podcast. And there we go, right there. Packaged up, high quality, even on the economy level. Highly recommend Phoenix Abrasives. Been doing business with them for a long time. And I'm going to tell you a funny story real quick, and it's funny to me at least, is that I got 10 there, and that's what I ordered. I was at Blade Show one time, and Blade Show, if you've ever been there, it's very overwhelming as far as visually. And I'm walking through, and Sean goes, "Hey, Dustin, how's it going?" I was like, "Oh, hey," had to look up and look at the sign, because a lot of times our profile pictures are not pictures of us, or they're pictures of our businesses or something we've made or a cartoon or whatever. So I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And I mean, since 2000. At least since 2017, I've been doing business with Phoenix Abrasives and had great results. And that goes for pretty much everybody I still do business with today. If I didn't have a good experience, I wouldn't be doing business with them. But what I'm actually waiting on some 7/8 by 1 inch curly maple to come in from Bell Forest Products. And this is some dowel, curly maple dowel that I got from them that Cheyenne has been nice enough to dye and stabilize for me into some of the colors that she likes to do. And I don't know. Oh, here's a blue one she cleaned up just a little bit. I'll be cleaning these up before too long, but you can see, this has the excess cactus juice on it. If we're supposed to say, yeah, whatever. We're not sponsored by them, but whatever. I'm not sponsored by anyone that I've talked about as far as supplying. It's just a matter of they're people that I like their products. They've always treated me well, and I appreciate that. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, and let's see. You remember the episode, and I don't know about his past history. I've had a lot of friends who are retired military, and some are still contract workers for security applications and so forth. So a lot of those, I don't ask too many questions. Better not to know. Cheyenne and I are married without papers, if that makes sense. Yeah, we have rings. We are not legally married. Been married and divorced a couple times. But there you have it. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here because it is just about time. One, I need to call that number back. And two, in a reasonably short amount of time, it's going to be time for me to turn that off, let it cool, and they'll be doing another video in the near future. You guys have a great one. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check out some of the other videos, and we'll catch you in a few.